This is Stan, and I'm back again to talk about some more old school Magic the Gathering killer decks. Now, the deck that I'm going to talk about today is actually one of the top 10 most dominating decks from the old school. The name of this deck is called The Deck. The name is supposed to imply that this was the deck to play with. This was pretty much the creme of la creme of Magic the Gathering decks. The deck was a Type 1/classic deck that reared its head around spring of 95 and was pretty much dominating the entire scene up to about spring of 96. It centered primarily around card advantage. This deck was invented by Pro Tour player Brian Weissman. This genius created this deck, and it pretty much puts the brakes on all the ground forces with the moat. As you can tell here, pretty much no non-flying creatures can attack you. All weenie horde players that don't have any flying types, you're just stuck like Chuck. Now, while this is in play, the major card advantage aspect of this deck is from the Disrupting Scepters. Now, when this deck starts to gain momentum, your opponent will eventually be reduced to one card in his hand. And if he doesn't cast it during his turn, he's going to lose it to the Scepter. Meanwhile, you're drawing several cards per turn thanks to the Tombs and the Library of Alexandria. Taking a closer look at the Library of Alexandria, I wouldn't recommend it. However, with this particular deck design, it works brilliantly. Now, once the lock is set up, you can finish off your opponent with Counterspell Protected Serra Angels or the infamous Mirror Universe, which is one of my favorite cards of all time and probably one of the biggest reasons why the Legends set sold so quickly. Now, if you look at it from this angle, this deck design, it operates a lot like a all-purpose Swiss Army knife. I mean, if you need to counter somebody, you can get a counter. If you need more mana, you got Black Lotuses and a full set of Moxes and a Soul Ring. Just in case if you are getting your ass kicked for some reason because you didn't play your cards right, you have something which acts a lot like a failsafe. The Brain Geysers help you gain more cards. You got the Ancestral Recall so that you can draw extra cards. And you got a Regrowth, which will help you get cards back just in case a certain card gets countered, destroyed, or if you just used it and you need to use it again. As I just explained, this deck is pretty much able to deal and virtually beat the shit out of anybody that comes along its way. I mean, all of the previous deck types that I talked about before in various other videos about, the top 10, pretty much all got stomped by the deck. And believe me, I gave it a test run playing with the old Magic the Gathering PC game. No one, and I mean no one, could beat the deck's design until the Necro deck came along. The ruthless efficiency of this deck pretty much taught a lot of players, usually the hard way, about the importance of carefully thought out deck design. This is just my opinion. You could say that Brian Weissman is one of the forerunners for permission decks. Talking about the weaknesses of the deck, probably the biggest weakness that you'll run up with this thing is that if you meet up with a deck that is faster than yours. Alright, that's pretty much all I have to say about this. One of my favorite decks of all time, The Deck. It comes in at number 2 of the most dominating decks of the old school. You don't believe me about this deck's potency? Go ahead and give it a test run. Alright, I'm Stan, and that's all for now.